Middlekauff!
Hey,
If you guys only knew.
I mean,
do it again.
Good afternoon, everybody. YouTube podcasters, how you doing? I did an incredible open. Turns out Guy didn't hit the record. We had that happen a couple weeks ago, but no big deal. Pivot fast. The best part about the internet, best part about technology. It's like when we were kids playing video games, you screw up, you just press restart, and you start playing again.
You just brought the heat to open the podcast, and we were not live.
I know. I RIP'd Robin Williams and Good Morning Vietnam, and maybe people from Vietnam are watching this. You never know. Hope everyone's doing well, and yeah, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube page, Haberman and Middlekauff, Ham. You guys know the drill. Use all of our promo codes. If you guys ever need beds, employment, or ball trimmers, we got you covered. We'll tell you more about it coming up. Again, we just were at 49er practice, and I hope everyone's doing good. How's everyone doing?
Did you promote the like and subscribe?
Oh, yeah. Like, subscribe, share. Big fan of organic reach. So share the YouTube page. Tell people about it. Share the podcast. Share with your friends. Share with your enemies. When you talk about anything going on, and if you listen to us, just mention it to your other friends that you would think would fall into our demo. Sports fans, guys, preferably a lot of money so they can invest in the advertisers so they keep coming back. This is a business. We're trying to feed our families, even though we don't have any, but maybe one day. And, yeah, check it out. Everything we got.
Did you mention the mailbag, or was that on the fake open?
I think it was on the fake open. So here's what we do. We're going to have to – the summer months are right around the corner. There is not going to be much going on. Maybe Guy will go solo, break down the All-Star break and the hot stove trade deadline. That's probably a month or two away.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
We're going to need some content, and we're going to need the people, and you guys are a big part of the show. So if you go to Apple iTunes, and I know – we were leaving practice, and Guy said Stitcher. Some guy tweeted at us like, I can't find you on Stitcher. I've never even heard of it. The majority of why we talk about Apple iTunes is because you see the pie chart. And you talk to anyone in the podcast business that's got any sort of listenership, the overwhelming, not like 60%, like 95% of people listen on Apple iTunes. It's like Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. They got the market corner. It just is what it is. I mean, we don't control that. You guys do. That's where you listen. So leave a review with your question. Anything. It could obviously be about football. It could be about Trey. It could be about Jimmy. It could be about life. We don't care. Leave your favorite bar. Leave us 5 stars, preferably. Some of you guys did 1 stars. We don't necessarily appreciate that, but listen, we do not. This is not the Saudi League. We don't tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want. So do that. And I know some people then respond, I listen on Spotify. Obviously understand that Spotify exists, and they're pretty big too. You can leave reviews there. Now people have told us you can leave a review there. I just don't know if we're going to stumble upon it. So Apple iTunes is where we will stumble upon it, or even YouTube. We see some good content or comments. Share the podcast, share the YouTube page. You guys know the drill. Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Good job, John. That's how you start a show. Twice.
Okay. See you guys.
I say keep going. Let me sit back.
It's just a lot. Yeah.
If you're listening to this,
smash that record, guys. Smash that record.
If you're listening to this on Thursday, then you already know what happened in the Warriors-Celtics game. But as we're live on YouTube, or if you're catching this thing Wednesday when it first comes out, obviously we're before game 3 of the NBA Finals. So
we were just before we hopped on, we were talking Belichick, and Belichick's king of like when the Bees are making a run, when the Red Sox are making a run, when the Celtics are making a run, when Danny Woodhead's trying to qualify for the U.S. Open. He keeps the local and his people like he's smart that way. And he had a Boston Celtics hat on today. They actually kind of had like mid-'80s Celtics hat vibes going. And we were taking, do you expect to see Belichick tonight when you're watching on ESPN?
100%. Yeah. ESPN, not ABC tonight?
Or ABC, yeah, whatever.
Is Breen back?
Well, Van Gundy got off the schneid a couple of days ago, so I would expect Mike Breen. Maybe Mike Breen's like, I'm kind of over this.
Van Gundy might have just had the flu.
Yeah, monkeypox.
Might have had monkeypox. I don't think he would have bounced back as fast from. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe they don't appear on his face. I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about our friends at Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. It is the best in men's grooming. Right now, you can get the biggest ultimate hygiene bundle yet, the Platinum Package 4.0, with the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Ultra Premium Body Wash. the ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, the ultra premium deodorant, the crop preserver anti-chafing deodorant, the crop reviver spray tone, and the anti-chafing boxers, plus the Shed Travel Bag to hold onto your goods while traveling, all for 20% off and free shipping when you use the code HAM.
Yeah, manscaped.com, promo code HAM. I may or may not have this morning trimmed and done a big trim job before I hopped in the shower. And you know the best part about the Lawnmower 4.0, which is easily their best model, and the 2.0 was awesome, the 3.0 was awesome, how smooth it is, how quiet it is, and how portable it is. You know, we're in our 30s. When we were young, and if you wanted to get one of these things, you usually had to plug it in somewhere. And if you didn't have a plug in your bathroom, it was impossible to get near the toilet. Sometimes you're using a trash can. And it was a lot more difficult before. USB charging, guy. It's a handheld thing. There is no cord. And it's waterproof, LED light. I just can't rave enough about the Lawnmower 4.0. I do think it is one of the great individual things we've ever pushed on this show. I'm being dead serious for any guy.
Yeah. No pushback, just push.
Yeah, just push it. The Weed Whacker.
I'm going to push 20% off free shipping. Code HAM, manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping. Manscaped.com. There's a lot of people out there, John, pushing Manscaped promo codes on you. But HAM is the one you should use. It's time to enjoy the finer things in life and get yourself the premium package. The premium platinum package for your own very premium platinum package.
Here's what I want you to know too. So you can find obviously Manscaped's a lot of places, like I said. If you're thinking about what promo code I'm going to use, if you don't use ours, we'll go out of business. Just no pressure.
Yeah.
So you better use ours if
Consider
you want to ever hear our content again.
Owners in this content.
It's the way for you to buy equity in our content. Use the promo code.
Did you hear Bill Simmons say that before we get to some Niner stuff, that Ballmer's new Clippers stadium is going to have one side of the stadium with no luxury suites, just going to be like bleacher seats up the whole side to try and make it as loud as possible?
I thought it was absolutely genius.
Isn't it?
Yes, absolutely genius.
I was thinking if I were him, now that
you couldn't charge as much for those seats, right?
Well, but see, that's the thing is like, how are you going to get people in? Lakers tickets, I mean, everything obviously gets more expensive. What if he charged a ridiculously low amount of money, like relative to NBA tickets?
$75 to get in.
Yeah, 60, 75. And you're like, well, we're not making as much money. Well, you're already not making as much on the suites. It's not going to affect how much you can pay players. You undercut the Lakers. Well, you got to start by getting people in.
Do you think that would really work, the reverberation off the wall, like they were talking?
I think what he's saying is it's a wall of seats. So that, especially if the seats are metal, which would be a little nuts to have bleacher seats. They're very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he said Rose Bowl level seats. So that
which is extremely uncomfortable, right?
Would you do the wall but individual seats and softer?
I would do individual seats and just a wall of seats, no suites. I do think
you can fit more people when you do it that way, right?
Yeah, you can. I'd make everyone wear a metal helmet or something, and then like give every seat like its own little thing they could yell through.
Yeah,
and obviously thunder sticks, and you're off and rolling.
The problem is Ballmer's payroll is pretty high. Like he does need, like he's always going to be right there with the Warriors. Like they're paying a lot of people a lot of money.
I know. Well,
he's Microsoft. Like everyone keeps saying he's super rich. Well, every other stock in America has plummeted. Have they just isn't a lot of his wealth tied to them? Like if their stock's been cut in half, he's had to lose some of his wealth. Now it's paper wealth, but still.
How much cash does he have on hand, do you think?
Would you guess he has a bank account where there is over $500 million in cash? Not through the business. I'm just saying his own person, not like the Clippers or, through another entity. I'm just saying like Steve Ballmer, a Chase, a Wells Fargo, a Bank of America, USA with an account. Yeah. What would the number you guess? The largest sum of just cash, not stocks or brokerages.
Well, how much do you think there's a minimum amount that the NBA requires owners to have cash available?
It's a good question.
Fundamentally, you shouldn't just keep $500 million in cash, right?
Well, is it money all relative? What if you're worth $1 billion?
That's true.
$50 billion.
That's true. That's like his version of keeping $15,000 in a bank account.
Yeah, if someone's worth $1 million on paper and you have $75,000 cash, it's all but that's a larger percentage than some of the numbers you can do.
I bet he's got an amount of money that just the amount of things he'd have to buy to put a dent in that cash reserve.
500 feels a little high. It probably in the ones would be my guess.
100 mil, 125 mil.
Yeah, I could see something like that.
Billionaires are not as liquid as you think, says Kenneth.
Well, 100. We're not saying that. We are just acknowledging when you are worth 50, 80 billion, and it's especially a time like now where it's like, a lot of moving parts. You're not that comfortable. You got to build a stadium. I think that's when you cash out and you leave a little. People make their best purchases when times get weird like they are right now, not when fucking everything's booming, right? Mm-hmm. That's when he makes his money when everything's booming because he's riding the wave. Now he's taking money out and he's waits. So it's like something happens weird. He's ready to pounce.
Buy some land at a discount.
Yeah, you just weird shit. You just never know. Maybe buy, used car prices going down. Maybe he buys a fleet of those. Probably not.
The average billionaire, Swan Song says, with a quote which makes it seem like it came from somewhere. The average billionaire only holds 1% of their net worth in liquid assets like cash.
I would argue there is absolutely zero chance that is a real stat. I'm not saying that that's not close. How would they know?
Khalil says, ex-Braves baseball player and Falcons Brian Jordan once told me he keeps most of his millions in Merrill Lynch. And then Pete on the stream asks, how did rookie wide receiver Danny Gray look in OTAs?
Good.
Confused?
He has a good Mohawk thing going, doesn't he?
He spent a lot of his time looking at the practice script in his hands because he was not participating.
I saw a lot of studious nature with the guy. Yep. He was
following Brandon Ayuk around.
He had the look of, I've been getting screamed at with every play in the playbook since I've been here. I have to know this stuff like the back of my hand because he did not look up from the I think usually the piece of paper those guys are holding is the practice script for the day with all the plays. So he goes, what would I have done? So I get a mental rep, even though I'm not practicing. Rep number 3, my position runs X. Would I have known that in the huddle when they call Kyle's crazy play?
Right. He is, to be clear, he did not practice Wednesday. He did not practice Tuesday at mandatory OTAs. We were there last week when he appeared to tweak his hamstring, was walking around with a Theragun on his hammy, came back into practice, but I don't think he's practiced since I shouldn't say I don't think he's practiced since last Tuesday because I don't know that. But I know when we saw him last Tuesday, more than a week ago, something was up with his hammy, and they've been holding him out.
I would say remove Juwan from the group of Deebo, Ayuk, and now him. What we hit on this all week, and we've been hitting on this now for a while. They're not a very big group, right? Wouldn't you put him in their size category when you just stand around him, body type? He might be a little taller, but I would not call that trio physically intimidating. I mean, Deebo is from a thick standpoint, but just talking height. Trey's not throwing to A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf out there.
Right. Yep.
Now, the way you get away with smaller guys is skill, right? And you like the Deshaun thing. If you've ever been around Deshaun, he is tiny. And he was, for a stretch of football, one of the most dangerous players in the league for over half a decade. So it's skill, and I think coaches would tell you this. And Kyle mentioned this when we asked him about Juwan Jennings. At the skill positions is more important than size, right? There have been a lot of big players that couldn't function. And there have been a lot of smaller players with skill who can play at a really high level. So, and the reason they drafted him when you and I were bullshitting with John Lynch a couple weeks ago, no big deal. They really loved his skill set, right? Yeah. A lot of people in the league did. He was fast, productive for a spread offense team, but physicality, he's not scared for a smaller guy. I think Ayuk possesses that too, right?
Yeah, not afraid. There are some basic requirements to play for Shanahan at receiver. One of them is unafraid. You know what I think? I think Draymond Green does not get enough credit. Well, whether he gets enough credit or not, I don't know. But so much of the focus on Draymond is about his attitude, rightfully so. Like he is a force of nature in a positive way. I think we'll see what happens as we record this before Game 3. If the Warriors win the championship, it feels like it's trending towards Steph Curry finally getting his Finals MVP. But
I think so.
But I actually think there's a world where Draymond Green is the Finals MVP also.
That would be controversial.
Well, I know. My point ultimately, if they win a championship, they're like
he had
I'd
2
say
points
probably
in game 1.
No, I understand. I'm just saying they can't win a championship without him. And they can't win a championship without Steph. And, I think there's a world in which that would be, he'd be worthy of it. But my point is, sorry, that was an aside. For all the talk about Draymond's personality, he's really skilled. Like, now he's not a very good shooter, right? Looney, good call. He's not a very good shooter. He's not a very good scorer, but he's a phenomenal passer. His ability, you and I have been talking about this for a few weeks, to dribble while running very fast is not a common skill. He's very good at it. Sometimes it feels a little out of control, but he's very aggressive with it. And I think when you're an undersized guy in that sport like him, you have to earn so much of it with your work ethic. And in football, you have to earn a lot of it by being fearless, because you just have to be willing to stretch your body in ways that taller players don't have to stretch their bodies. But let's talk about Trey Lance at practice on Wednesday. Made 2 throws that we've been waiting to see him make, downfield connections. He did them on back-to-back throws. One to Ray McLoud, one to Jordan Matthews. Both were 50-yard touchdowns. Both were about 40 yards in the air. Ray was on the sideline where he had beaten Ambry Thomas. Jordan Matthews was more down the middle of the field. After you and I were having a conversation after the Ray catch, I said to you, do you think throwing that sideline ball is easier than throwing the middle of the field ball because you're just throwing it to a spot and you don't have a DB coming from the other side? And you said, no, I think it's harder because you have less field to work with. But in any event, he threw both of them back to back. And we had not seen in these few weeks of practice Trey Lance hit on those throws.
I do think the sideline pass is much more difficult because it requires, if you're going to do it right, you have to hit the guy in stride over his shoulder. And I would say typically that guy, the DB, for the most part, I mean, there can be blown coverages. For the NFL, wouldn't you say even 80%, 85% of the completions, the DB is relatively close. And while there's no John Lynch or Steve Atwater coming over to kill you anymore, they still do come over to play the ball. Like there typically can be 2 players right there. So you have to put it on the shoulder toward the sideline. I think it's much more difficult because over the middle of the field, especially if you're hitting either, the Niners have a big slot receiver in Juwan Jennings or their tight end who also is very athletic. And it could even be Twelly, who is a bigger player. They can make an adjusted kind of get big. And sometimes they're on a linebacker. So I put a lot more value, not that the second throw wasn't awesome, because it's always good, whether your quarterback is Tom Brady or it's fucking Baker Mayfield, to see that pass completed in practice, because ultimately that pass is a game changer in the sport of football. Whether you're talking high school, whether you're talking in the NFL, it's much easier to hit it in high school when you have good players. It's harder to hit in the NFL, regardless who's on your team. But that is going to be an element that the 49ers just didn't have last year. And obviously Ray is an interesting player, but Brandon Ayuk can go deep. Deebo Samuel can go deep. Like, they have 2 guys that can go deep. And their other guy who can also get deep, as Kyle talked about with Juwan, who can get open, is huge. So you don't have to be as accurate. Just put it up there in the field and let him high point, which, remember when we were watching him in Tennessee, because the knock on him was he was really slow, but he did high point. He is very, very skilled. Push the ball down the field.
And we haven't seen Kittle.
We haven't seen George, which we know he can do that, right? He's made some, I would say, some of his catches throughout his career have been remarkable, right? Jumping, leaping in the air, playing the ball in the air. And even Ayuk, for being a shorter wide receiver, does have an incredible radius to catch the ball, right? Just in terms of he can, and obviously Deebo is very, very skilled, but just wasn't Jimmy's cup of tea. It just wasn't, for whatever. It's not because Jimmy can't throw the ball far enough. I don't know if he didn't trust his accuracy, whatever it was. It is just, and maybe they made a conscious effort today with the play calls, but it's, you don't, part of there's a reason a bazooka does something different than a pistol. Like, part of having Trey or Josh Allen or Mahomes, guys with bigger arms, you want to utilize them. Now you need the right player with them. There's always, let's face it, Alex took a lot of shit when he resurrected his career with Harbaugh. And then even with Andy, it was like, you're leaving plays on the field because he can't do it, or he just refuses to even try. because there's like an uncertainty in his own belief in the ability to make the throw. Because if you do underthrow it, it is an easy pick, right? If a 50-yard pass, if it only travels 42, if the DB just turns his head, he'll Willie Mays catch it. It is a risky throw.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had not seen him make good. We've seen a couple of them, like you said. It felt like there were to have back-to-back deep balls from Trey. We've not seen that in the practice. We didn't see it Tuesday. We didn't see it the last Tuesday. We didn't see it the Tuesday before that. Now,
have we seen a bomb from Trey in a team period like that? I mean, a bomb, not like a over the middle, like 30-yard dime, but like a bomb.
Yeah, I mean, connect. No, we saw the incompletion on a really incomplete pass on Tuesday, and we saw the ball last Tuesday a week ago that went to 6 down the sideline, and it wasn't really close to connecting.
Marcus Johnson,
and then we also saw.
There was the Ayuk play down the field, but he completed it, but I wouldn't call it a bomb.
In terms of like, I think we've seen 3, and he was 0 for 3 in last Tuesday and then the previous Tuesday. So we've not seen him, I don't think, hit one of those, let alone hit 2 on back-to-back plays. And, I thought it was significant because you and I were having, up to that point of practice, Niner by Nature on the stream says, Ray pass was wobbly, I hear. We were standing right there where Ray caught the ball. You and I did the thing simultaneously that everybody on the sideline loves to say. And I heard you do it as it was coming out of my mouth. We both said, got him. Like you could see Ray get past Ambry Thomas. And we both said, got him. And then you got to throw the ball and hit it. And he hit it. I thought it was a really good throw. I don't remember thinking that was wobbly. And you and I had several conversations today at practice with some Trey balls that are not always pretty.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him throw the direct spiral. But I was thinking about this on the drive home. Because part of it, you're just nitpicking. Like, there's not much going on. You're really just nitpicking the ball coming out of his hands, the velocity of it, the spiral. Phillip Rivers is a guy that doesn't throw that many spirals. Peyton Manning, a lot of the weak arm guys didn't. So to me, if you can be an explosive arm and throw a little wobbly of a ball, I thought for the most part he was pretty accurate today, which if you're accurate with a wobbly ball, using those two guys as an example, it doesn't necessarily matter. I think we can – there have been a lot of guys that throw tight spirals that fucking get run out of the league.
Well, Nate Sudfeld throws a really good spiral, right? He's not a starting NFL quarterback.
Does make $2 million to play in the NFL.
But I'm saying, like, he throws – you just watched him throw, if you only judged ball flight, you'd say Nate Sudfeld's got – although he underthrew a ball badly today that got intercepted. So whatever.
I'd say Purdy throws a pretty tight spiral.
Not with a lot of velocity, but yeah,
he throws a tight ball.
Trey had another throw to the other side of the field that was, he threw it very hard, and it was a good enough spiral. And it was.
I wonder if Brock Purdy's a good comp for Jake Haener.
I think Jake's might be a little more athletic. I think Jake's more athletic than Brock Purdy.
Jake might actually have just more physical gifts, but I think size-wise, I think they're probably pretty.
It's interesting. I bet his arm's a little better. You think Haener's?
Is Jake like a better version of Brock Purdy?
I think he's a little more dynamic version. Brock Purdy was 2-time all Big 12 quarterback, right?
Well, yeah, Jake has a chance. I guess Carson Strong was last year, but I just think there's something in that vein of that type guy.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think Brock Purdy, we've talked about him, can make that team. But anyway, I thought it was encouraging to see Trey do it. At this point, we don't know if they're planning to practice Thursday. Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk were just hanging out today. And we'll talk about them and Deebo.
They get the baseball just like after day night doubleheader or whatever, where you just get to hang out the next day. You don't do shit. You just sit there. It's like, yeah, you're not even gonna pitch hit today.
Oh yeah, no, don't even put on your jock strap.
Yeah, if you want to slam a couple hot dogs, just do what you do, Doug. This day's you. If you want to leave in the 7th, if we're winning, go home. So that's part of it, right? He was today throwing to pretty random guys. Jordan Matthews, Ray McLoud. Those are not the starting players that are going to be in there. Ray's an NFL player for sure, right? He's been in the league, played on teams, caught balls for playoff teams. But, if everyone's healthy in a game, beside, some, throughout the game when some specific plays get called, he will not be on the field if everyone's healthy, right?
Yeah. He should be throwing those balls to Ayuk and Deebo and Juwan Jennings and Kittle. The Kittle one is the one we really have not gotten to see.
But even like Jordan Matthews is behind even like Jordan Matthews doesn't make the team, right?
No,
he hasn't. But he's a good guy. People like him. Transition tight end. Good story.
Yeah.
Talented guy. He's a former receiver. Chip Kelly drafted in the second round over Devontae and Jarvis. But
bad pick.
No, remember the first couple of years, I think Jordan Matthews had like 80 catches, like was very, very productive. But I'd say over the time, it's proven that Devontae was the right pick of the cluster.
Yeah.
And then Jarvis would be second.
Yeah. I think this was the last thing I wanted to see from Trey Lance in the environment that we get to watch him, right? 7-on-7 is there's even 11 full team. You're not getting hit. There's a little more traffic. There's only so much we could see. I've been waiting to see him throw the ball deep. And I think all in all, whenever OTAs are done, whether it's today or tomorrow, or whether they do one more next week, I've come away, big picture, very encouraged by Trey Lance. I think we've seen the things we need to see. He's looked very comfortable, very at ease.
You see what Trent Williams said yesterday? Like, he's just very calm. He's just one thing he noticed. Now, he's obviously was around him last year, hasn't been around him all offseason until this week. Yeah. He's not technically even in the huddle with him, but,
standing nearby.
Maybe Kyle's telling Trent that. He just has a very, very calm demeanor to him.
Yeah. I think it's obvious when you look at him, when you watch him.
Yeah. I'd say the Niners just have pretty good vibe going at their practice. The last 2 days, the one we went to, was it the second one? There was kind of no one was there.
That might have been the first one.
These have felt the last 2 days just very professional. In and out, not much. It's easy from a time standpoint for these guys, right? They're on the field, no longer than an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But just feels like a very high level thing, which I think can be easily derailed if you have a quarterback that doesn't know what's going on, right? Remember when the Broncos came a couple years ago? Like Simeon was the quarterback. We're like, what is going on with these guys? And it was just a lot. Simeon and not Osweiler. Was it Locke? Might have been Osweiler. Someone kind of random. It was like, this is just not going to work. And it didn't. And it's kind of started there post-Peyton, and it just kind of derailed. You can feel a vibe when the quarterbacks are just a little overwhelmed because balls hit the ground. And obviously it changes. Like there is a level, we talk about like being out there. Part of it is you don't spend too much time talking about like Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. It's kind of more about the random guys and I've just learned over the years, you can't like Marcus John, random guys make a play. It really doesn't mean that much because those guys have to prove it to do it in training camp where it gets a lot harder in the pads, 7 straight days. It just gets more difficult. But I would say that Trey is proven because that's something we have to watch come August is like, remember last year they say he really hit a wall. I think he's much more prepared this year, hopefully, right? Off season, he's been in a team now for a while. He knows everybody. But that is something to keep an eye on. And you'd even just say as the season goes, even if it starts well, because their team's loaded. Like this is to me, healthy. Like going into the season, they're an 11-win team, even with an unknown, talented young quarterback. Like I'm going to pick him to go 11-6. And if you tell me he's good, like that could turn into like 13-4 pretty easy. A couple injuries could go 10 again, but like they're really good. They're easily like, we've been around this long enough. This is one of the better teams in the NFL. We saw it last year when they were on with a quarterback that had multiple injuries. They could beat anybody on the road in playoff games. But like that adds there's just a lot of juice. And one thing, Jimmy, 7th, 8th year guy, like you understand the complete grind as a player. It's a lot different as the backup, right? You go into meetings and stuff, but you're actually not. You're just sitting there during the games.
One of the questions, and you were talking, who were we talking to before? I don't know if it was Dubau or Larry Kruger about, like, one of the questions with them is just going to be, we know if you just play the way Jimmy played, which is you're throwing the ball 21 times and handing it off as much as possible. We know what that looks like. So when then does Kyle decide to dial things up for Trey Lance that are different? How many risks does he take with Trey Lance? Does he try to play this year as, let me just get the basics with Trey, and I think as a complete package, this team can win 11, 12 football games? Or does he think, man, I can cut it loose a lot more now, and the sky is the limit? I think Kyle's personality is I will dial a few up here and there, but otherwise, let's play this thing safe. We can be a little conservative, and we can play defense and run the football to, at minimum, a wild card appearance, which is, when you look at their division, I think reasonable. So now, how do you get in a lot of 3rd and 7s? Like, do you run the football is going to be the biggest question for this team. Can they run the football effectively on 1st or 2nd down and then leave Trey in really good, positive situations on 3rd down? Because if they can, then you don't have to take a lot of chances.
What would you guess Matt Ryan is MVP year with the Super Bowl team that under Kyle averaged
pass attempts per game
for over 16 games?
Did he lead the league in passing that year?
I mean, he threw 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, so I would imagine he was near the list.
I'm going to say he averaged 28 attempts a game.
33.
Wow.
Like, looking at it, I mean, he was, now again, established veteran player. They had been together a couple years. He was very far along in his career. That number, like, I would imagine Kyle's goal, like, again, like any coach would say this, things change. You learn more as games go on. But I think you have a relative, like the way we want to play would probably be like 25 attempts a game for Trey, especially early on, the first, 7, 8 games, like to ease into his career. I mean, Patrick Mahomes started, it just boom, they were winning MVP. Like, it was kind of clear, like halfway through that first year starting, like this guy's going to be the MVP of the league. And now, granted, his coach philosophically believes in throwing the ball. That's, I guess, part of it's different, right? For example, when Andy drafts Mahomes, they do it with the vision of making this guy a great passer. Like, this guy's going to, because we're going to pass it 40 times a game or whatever. Like, that's just how we play. Kyle's philosophical belief is running the ball. Like, whether Matt Ryan's his quarterback or whether it's not. Now, the other thing is, Matt Ryan threw 7 picks that year. So when you are not turning the ball over, it's much easier to dial. Why did Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in their primes, you knew they weren't going to turn the ball over. Part of it is like, you don't mind. Kyle probably had a million pass plays the last year that at different times he held back because he just didn't trust Jimmy to not turn the ball over, even if he thought like this might work, but I can't risk it. That's part of it. You have to trust your quarterback to not give it to the other team. Because that was really, I mean, the Niners are a 12-win team last year if Jimmy doesn't fucking turn it over. I mean, he had some turnovers last year that were crippling. Obviously, special teams too, but Jimmy's. I mean, that Tennessee, now, granted, his thumb was hurt, but I mean, that pick he threw over the middle. Now, the pick he threw against the Rams in the first half was, oof.
And the one he almost threw late against them along the side.
Oh my God, where it was like, oh, I guess he threw another one where they batted it up. Remember that thing?
That's right. In the goal on the
like behind Kittle, and then Jalen Ramsey like hit it up like this.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen to Trey.
This is, well, yeah, he's not throwing 7 picks. To your point, this is not. We'd have to do a much deeper dive than like some raw attempt numbers in terms of. I would bet the way Patrick Mahomes threw the ball was very different than the way Alex Smith threw the ball. Like, I think we can guess that was the case. But Alex Smith's year in Kansas City when Mahomes was the backup, so his last year in KC.
Best year of his career.
33.6 attempts per game. And you said Matt Ryan was how many attempts per game?
Like 33.5. So
they were, again, we have to do a deeper dive on like how far down the field the ball was going.
I'd imagine Matt was pushing it a little farther than Alex.
And Alex was throwing bubble screens. But nonetheless, the next year Mahomes takes over. From Alex's 33.6 attempts, Mahomes then went to 36.25. So 3 more attempts per game. Not a wild number. Again, they were probably different, but not a wild number.
Wouldn't you be
so if Jimmy was 31 last year, what is this going to be?
I think if you ask Kyle right now, it'd like to be like 27, 28 average.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a couple games that just skew 40 if you're down a couple touchdowns. Like, you lose games. So when you lose, that means you're down and you're trying to play a comeback, right? That's part of the sport, right? And it's no different with Jimmy. I bet if you have Jimmy's log, like some of those games toward the end, like the Rams game where they were down 17-3, even though I guess they ran it to come back, actually. That's probably a bad example. The Titans game, they probably threw it a bunch. Because they started losing in the second half. Early in the season, they had some games where they were down, they had to throw it. It's just somewhat of it is predicated on like individual games. You have 3 or 4 where you're down 14 points in the second half. You have no choice. That's what makes Kyle a little unique, though. He will keep running the football.
Yeah. And he will run the ball. You're saying when he's down or when he's up?
Both.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, Ray McLoud, I don't, at the risk of making him like the Trent Sherfield of this period last year in training camp, it was like, oh, Trent Sherfield's making plays. But Ray's different in that they signed, like they made a concerted effort to go bring in Ray McLoud. He was one of the biggest signings they had the offseason. Now, he's a specialist which helps them. But he has, we are here to report to you, he's made a lot of plays and he's looked fast. I was surprised when we looked it up and he ran a 4.53 at the NFL Combine coming out of college at Clemson before he was a 6th-round pick.
Probably why, if he ran a 4.42, he's probably a third rounder, right?
But even then, he was on 3 teams. This is his 5th. The Niners are his 4th team in 5 years. Well, he played on 3 teams in 3 years, the 3rd being Pittsburgh, and then he played for them for 2 years.
But isn't that what happens when you're a fringe roster guy who's a special teams guy and not like he doesn't play much on offense? I mean, how many do you have his stats in front of you?
No, but I think he had 24, 32 catches last year, something like that, low 30s, high 20s.
My question would be,
but it was by far his best year of his career.
Yeah, I mean, how many Ray McLeod has 64 career catches, 0 career touchdowns receiving, 0. So I mean, that's just. He's a fringe backup guy to make the team who they value on special teams, which is important. And I would say teams, I mean, as we all well documented, was the weakness of the team and one of the weaker units in the league, like for an individual team. The Niners special team was an abomination. And then we learned that the Packers was even worse, which I even thought was hard to be possible, but we saw it live happen, and it was crazy to watch.
At the worst possible time.
Devastating.
He had 38 catches last year, so over half of his career catches.
But look how many yards he had.
How many did he have?
277. Isn't that a little weird? If I give you 40 catches, shouldn't you have like 500 yards? 400
Wait a second. I'm sorry. I was looking at returns. He had 38 returns.
He had 39 catches last year.
Okay.
But he only had
277.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can get open down the field, but I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't know how many opportunities he'll have to do that.
When I say a guy caught 39 balls in the NFL, what yardage comes to your head?
Yeah, like probably 380, right? 39, not 10 yards a catch, but maybe 8 yards a catch. What would that math be?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys that catch 1,000 yards catch 80 balls. 39 catches is a lot. Like 39 catches is pretty productive. If you have a couple.
Where did that rank on their team? Probably 4th.
Probably low because they have guys that are very productive.
5th.
To me, 39 catches is much closer to 500 than it is 200. Because you get 3 or 4 plays at 40 yards. I mean, boom, you're already at over 100. That's a lot of balls thrown your way. Because you're not catching every ball thrown your way. So, I mean, was he targeted 50 plus times?
66.
He actually, it was he played a role in their squad last year.
66, John.
He's
targets.
He's not getting 66 targets.
He's not getting 66 targets. But, maybe
I saw someone say in the chat, and it's fair. I mean, Ben was dinking and dunking last year. Ben was turned into a big version of Alex Smith. If you watch them play, they were not throwing.
If he was
balls.
dinking and dunking, how come Ray only caught under 60% of the balls thrown to him?
Someone just said he had 10% of his drops.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains that. If you're dinking and dunking, your catch percentage should be higher than 39 catches on 66 targets.
Not everyone's.
If he drops the ball, he's not going to get on the field.
Not everyone's father was a bricklayer and turned their kid into Jerry Rice. It's not everyone's that equipment manager out of practice to just not drop a ball.
Who is that guy?
I don't know.
Find that guy. Forget about the DJ or the guy that carries the speakers.
Truly one of the great equipment trainer, low-level assistant coaches I've ever seen catch the ball. I haven't seen one ball hit the ground.
He wears this tan long sleeve, a hat. I mean, kind of looks like a shorter version of Chris Kasarik, right?
Yeah.
And he just, you don't even hear the ball when it hits his hands. He catches it so soft and he'll tuck it.
It's impressive.
And these guys are throwing BBs too, like you pointed out.
Would not happen if you put me or you out there.
No. So, this is what happens when you don't get your starting receivers out there all the time. You start finding other ways for other guys to get involved. But somebody asked, how badly did he beat Ambry Thomas today on this chat? He beat him. I mean, there was nothing Ambry Thomas was going to do. He was by him. And as long as the ball wasn't underthrown, he was getting beat. And he did. He was by him by, 3 yards, 4 yards. Yeah. It was going to take a bad throw for him to catch up. So, John, before we go on, let's tell the people about our friends at Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. Where right now, when you use Indeed.com/ham, you get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job post, and you can earn up to $500 in extra sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews.
Yep, guy. Indeed. That's the thing about that, virtual interviews. You're looking to interview someone, and the times have changed, right? We used to always meet in person. Now there's this thing called the internet, and there's a thing called Indeed that uses instant match to find the candidates that fit what you're looking for, right? You want to find the candidates that fit you. So if you're listening and you're in HR, you run a small business, you know your company's looking for someone, go, why don't we jump on Indeed.com/ham and check out the best ability to find human beings that are looking for JOBs. Indeed is an unbelievable, powerful hiring partner, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. Join the 3 million businesses right now that are on Indeed.
In the minute we've been talking to you about it, 16 hires made on Indeed.
Oh,
when you sponsor an Indeed post, you are 3 times more likely to get a hire in the U.S. And finding great talent should not be a second job for you. You can hire faster and better, more efficiently, which means you save yourself money. So sign up for Indeed now. Get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job post, plus earn up to $500 extra in sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews. Visit Indeed.com/ham to learn more. Claim your credits at Indeed.com/ham. Indeed.com/ham. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire?
Indeed.
Indeed.
A blue whale was spotted off the coast of Vancouver. It's the largest animal ever to grace the planet. The largest dinosaur weighed around 85 tons. Some male blue whales weigh as much as 200 tons.
I don't see that. It's so much weight that I don't even have a reference for how much weight that is.
A blue whale's heart is 6 feet wide and weighs 400 pounds.
So it's basically a nose tackle, a massive nose tackle, but 2 of them side by side.
Oh my God.
6 feet wide. I need to know like how many stories long that is for me to be able to comprehend it, right? Like tonnage, I have no reference point for.
Do you know how many pounds a ton is?
I don't know, 1,000, 2,000?
I think a ton is 2,000 pounds. So be 4,000 pounds.
But again, I don't even have, like you say 10 stories, I can visualize that. I have no point, like, how much is it? What does it feel like when a ton drives over your foot? Like, thank God I don't know the answer to that. And I just have at a certain weight, it's all just way too heavy. Like height, height's like, wow, that thing is really tall. Weight is just impossible to even have, like there's no way for me to comprehend it.
Like it feels like it would hurt a lot running into Trent Williams, but until you ran into him and have him throw you, you wouldn't quite understand the power that he possesses, right? Like it's clear he's big, but like how much power does the guy possess? You don't truly know until you feel that power, right?
And even then,
foot run over by a golf cart doesn't hurt that much. Foot run over by a car, I think feels dramatically different. Depending on the car.
Who was it? I remember, well, it wasn't you. That had your finger slammed in a car door after 9th grade freshman baseball practice.
It's got to hurt.
Maybe it was Scott Dickey. Don't remember. Corey on the stream says, I'm actually not sure that Jimmy could throw the ball far enough to throw a deep ball. All of his deep throws look like he was conjuring up all of his Hail Mary strength.
Might be fair.
Throwing it deep enough and on target, I think, would be the problem. He overthrew Emmanuel Sanders. How far was that throw?
I think for him to have a chance to throw, and this is where, like, I don't think Trey's going to fall into this category. Obviously, all the big dogs, Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, for example. they don't need to have their feet set. I think Jimmy had to be in like a guy in the outfield who needs the perfect like crow hop. And then there's like Raul Mondesi who could be like sitting with his legs crossed and gun the guy out.
Yeah,
from like,
Ichiro.
Yeah, so it's just I think Jimmy, part of it is he has to be fundamentally perfect to let the ball rip. Rivers, Ryan, I think fall into that category. Those guys, I would say, have a little Rivers his arm wasn't great toward the end. But I think in a perfect world, Trey will not have to be set. Remember the pass we were showing last week, like, can he do things because of his physical gifts? That really, wouldn't you say why Mahomes, Allen, or Herbert are like viewed as just such superstar players, as their physical attributes are just freakish. Mahomes, his highlight plays, the majority of them have been like off one leg, across, not looking, throwing BBs, right?
Yeah.
Was it the Herbert throw? I guess he kind of crow hopped a couple of years. Was it last year where he threw it like 85 yards in the air, hit the guy in stride? And I think DJ said, like, this is the best throw I've ever seen live.
I think one of Herbert's greatest throws was his college throw against Auburn, where he's backpedaling and he throws it to the opposite corner of the end zone his last year at Oregon.
Touchdown.
Do you remember that throw?
I don't think I watched the game. I only watched the fourth quarter. I can't remember what I was doing, but like I got home in the game because it was like I remember it was a noon kickoff or one kickoff.
Yeah.
So by the time I remember turning it on, tight game, fourth quarter, it was like 3:30. I missed.
I'll have to find you that throw. I think it was an all-time throw from him.
Was that a fantastic game, start to finish?
No, it got kind of boring.
Yeah.
All right, we saw Deebo Samuel today. If you want to see what we saw, not all of it was allowed to be posted, but there's about 90 seconds of it. The video is actually up on our YouTube channel.
Haberman was reprimanded.
I almost got in trouble. I almost got banned. No. You're not allowed to film off the field, but then he stepped on the field, and so we were allowed to film it. And he was out there having some fun. And, I remember when I'd get a new pair of shoes, when I would get a glove, definitely a baseball glove, I would take it to bed with me when I was a kid. So Deebo was not going to practice today, but he had his gloves on. He had a football. He kept walking around the field. He was playing catch with Juwan Jennings. He had the practice script in his pants and behind him. And one thing watching him, and this is a common thread with a lot of the guys that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan like, one thing that does make you feel really good about Deebo, when they pay him, which they're going to do, the guy, I think it's pretty clear, loves football. Like, you don't have the season he had last year to play the way he plays, to run the way he runs, to fight the way he fights for yards. Watching him out there today, just having a good time, he likes being around you don't say that forever. Everybody doesn't love football. You scouted. I'm sure it was a question. We've talked about this, that you would ask when you were scouting a guy like, does this guy love football? Deebo Samuel loves football. And I think that was one of the things I took away just watching him today. He is enjoying, maybe he's here because he has to be, but it looks like he is enjoying being back on the field with the Niners, even though he's not practicing.
During the draft, when a guy who's, mocked as like a top 20 player and then ends up going like 57th, and everyone's like, I do not get how this guy fell. And Mel Kiper's giving him an A because the guy fell. And like 3 years later, it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of why he fell. Because I think anytime that the word gets out, it was like, this guy, and I say it all the time, the media gets very uncomfortable with this around draft time. Is like, they don't want balance. They want you to eat, breathe, and sleep it, because it really matters. This is like, you practice all the time. It's really hard. And when you're not practicing, you're in a room lifting. And then you're going to the meeting to watch yourself of what you did on the practice field. And if you didn't practice, you watch your teammates practice and take it away mental reps. It's hard. It's tedious. I thought Alex Mack had an incredible quote to Albert Breer about it's a consistent monotony of, I'm butchering the quote, but whatever his quote was, it's like over and over the same shit every day to maintain being good at the craft. Basically saying, like, to be good, you have to be cool with just doing the same thing over and over at a really high level, and it's really kind of boring in a weird way. You got it. So basically, you have to love it. And I hearing you say that about Deebo, I think a lot of the 49ers star players fall into that category. When we walked around to the other side of the field today, Bosa and Trent have not taken live team reps, but Bosa was over there with the D lineman. And there was a rep or two where it was like, Jesus Christ, he couldn't have gone any harder. Like, he's not there just fucking looking at butterflies when he's actually repping. I don't blame them for not putting him in, or Trent. Trent, a little different because the old linemen were going less hard than Kasarik and the crew. I mean, they were doing legitimate 4 or 5 step get going, right?
Yep.
And you're just watching Bosa like, holy shit. And then you realize there's a reason that they go, yeah, Nick's allowed to stay. We have zero reservations about anything he brings to the table. He needs to be here right now because it's mandatory, and he does show up, and he gives us everything he has. And I think you need that. I think the Patriots really separated themselves. Obviously, they had Tom Brady, but they had a bunch of guys that were just like, you got to drag these guys off the field. And Edelman's not as good as Deebo or whatever, but like Edelman was, you had to drag it. Clearly Gronk, McCourty, Slater, Hightower, they built their team around that. You could argue the Niners high-end players, again, they don't have Tom Brady, but like the Patriots weren't as talented as the Niners non-quarterback, right? The Niners have more talented players at premium positions. Now it's just on the quarterback. I'm telling you, if they're healthy, I think they're easily one of the more talented players or teams in the league, because not only do they have the talent, like I know all those guys fucking will go to war. Starting with Deebo. I mean, we saw him. I mean, it was just relentless. And we know Kittle's like that. We know Bosa's like that. We know, I mean, Jimmy Ward, I looked at one time. I was like, God, why is Jimmy trying so hard? Armstead's with his baby. Like, he does not need to be doing this.
Jimmy Ward tries hard every practice we've been to.
It's crazy.
Yeah. At one point during 11-on-11, we looked at the other field, and Bosa was just doing sprints. Like he practices hard. He might practice harder than anybody. Like Kittle practices hard, but it's kind of hard to practice because you're not allowed to. You know, a guy that I've seen away, or no one's trying to tackle you, right? But Bosa is 100 miles an hour.
I'm not saying he's on these guys' level, but a guy that clearly just loves it, and he played like this in college, and clearly they love him, is Hufanga. Like if you just kind of keep an eye on him, and then like when he's on the sideline, he's always talking to a coach.
It seems like he's always he's engaged.
Yeah, I feel they have a very engaged team, and this, when we talked about it coming in, like what would Deebo be like? His true colors have shown, right? There's a reason that. You can argue over the amount of money, but they're very comfortable with the football player and the football. Like, is there a chance that
and the guy, like they're comfortable with the guy?
Yeah, that's what I mean. The whole package you get with the football player as a foot on your team. The Titans weren't totally comfortable with AJ Brown, because if you loved everything about him, wouldn't you find a way?
You would think. I mean, the one thing with them is Vrabel seemed pretty heartbroken over having to trade him, but. Yeah.
Maybe it was as simple as Tannehill's contract completely screwed him, and they wouldn't have been able to do some other things. But do you ever like to trade blue chip players who are war daddies?
No, but maybe they felt. I mean, again, why couldn't they have played the same game that Niners played? Like, dude, you have to play for us this year.
I know.
But maybe they really like Treylon Burks. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they like Treylon Burks more than the Niners like Treylon Burks.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like trading war daddies who are elite players. And I know that certain guys get injured more than others, but it's just, we've seen it now these last 2 years, like in the trenches of the big games. Like that's, without those guys, you have no chance. And this gets back to the Patriots. They've had a lot of them. Honestly, the Chiefs, you would say these last 4 years, like their 5 or 6 core players were just like, I'll go to war with these guys. Doesn't mean you win every game, but like you step on that field going, we're going to win the game. And that's Chris Jones, Kelsey, Tyreek, obviously Patrick. The Honey Badger was like that. I think they thought very highly of Ward. You know, that's why the Niners valued him. So you look at the Niners couple guys that they took. You know, they clearly, like, they have their core guy. Like, they know what it looks like with Deebo, Kittle, Bosa, Trent. I think Staley obviously fell into that too when they transitioned to Trent. They went and got Ray McLoud, who just was starting for the Steelers, who have an incredibly high standard. I forget the guy's name, but the safety that they signed from the Colts, who, I mean, that's place is just a place that's just Odom, I think is his last name.
George.
And Ward from the Chiefs. Like, they weren't signing guys from, you know, the Jets or the Lions. Now, you could argue that those teams usually don't have players worth signing. And this reason they suck. But good teams typically just have, they just can't sign everybody because to be good, you're going to have high priced players. It's just part of the nature of the sport. And I'm not even putting Ray on those other guys. Even Ward's on a different level than the other two guys. Like, he was a $15 million a year corner from one of the best teams in football. but you just know, like, this guy's been in the trenches for 4 years in the biggest games and the last several years as a starter. And I think that really matters. I mean, it truly does. That's why, like, Deebo's value, part of Tyreek and Devontae's value were so high is, like, those guys have played in the biggest games and dominated. Like, Deebo, ultimately his value, why the Niners could be like 10. Like, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy? In the biggest, baddest games, this guy was the baddest motherfucker on the field. Like that, and no one on TV, in the stands, on the sideline, argued. It was like, yeah, I guess the best player on the field right now.
Yeah, there's no stat padding, cheap stats. These are earned.
No. There's no, like, Cousins is like
half their season was must-win games.
And he flipped a switch in those games, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
I like his energy.
I do too.
He's just happy guy.
Walking around. He spent a lot of time with Jennings. Spent a lot of it actually helped him today that Jennings and Ayuk were not participating in practice because they just hung out the whole practice. Danny Gray a little bit too, right? He just could hang out with the receivers. And I remember it was Ayuk that said a few weeks ago, yeah, we just got done FaceTiming. We just FaceTimed with Deebo in the locker room. So maybe those guys get it. Maybe Ayuk gets it. Maybe, they get some credit for being a place where being teammates that he likes, that he wants to be around.
But it also gets back to when you draft, like, when all else fails, you should try to draft good guys and good people.
Yeah.
Because you end up like their energy does matter. Like when you do get the Albert Haynesworths and the TOs, like they can suck the life out of a franchise. And for the most part, you would say the Niners under Kyle have not had those guys at all. Even Harbaugh had bad guys that were like criminals.
Good teammates.
But they always felt like good teammates on the field, right? Never felt like they had a weird vibe on the field. No. You just couldn't, once they left the building, holy shit. Literally.
Jackson on the stream says, off topic, but my math final is in 5 minutes. What grade? College?
Can you even imagine taking a test?
Yeah. How about this little note here? Treylon Burks out of shape because he has asthma. Not ideal, John.
Tennessee's hot and sticky, man. It's hard to catch
the Titans know. Did the Titans know that ahead of time, you think? Do you think the Titans knew that?
I mean, there have been guys with asthma that play in football. Well, I used to think I had asthma. I was just fat. Remember my mom got me one of those things. It was just really.
She got you the inhaler?
Yeah.
You didn't have to go to the doctor and get diagnosed? They just got you an
but I don't think they, I'd say in like 96, did they truly? I'd say they're probably a little more advanced 20 years, 25 years later.
Just see if this helps him.
Maybe she would just give me, I think she thought she had it. Give it to me.
Wow. How long?
That's not ideal.
No, would they have Von Miller? Chris on the stream says Von Miller has asthma. It's just preparing and dealing with it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would imagine there's a percentage of NFL players that have asthma. There are a percentage of NFL players that have a million things. It's about preparing. Like the guy hopefully prepared for the math final.
At the University of Tennessee is where he's taking that final. Damn. Number one baseball team in the country.
You're still going to school June 8th? Doesn't most colleges end like 3 weeks ago?
Some of them have like finals like last week.
Yeah. Summer school? I don't know.
Academic. I mean, I guess we could check the academic calendar for the 2022 school year. University Registrar Office. Spring semester ends. Yeah, what the hell is going on, man? Exams are May 12th to the 18th.
Yeah, we got a liar on our hands.
No, he said I failed the class the first time. Mini summer school class.
Okay,
LMAO.
Makes sense.
On the stream, Vrabel indicated the Titans were aware of Burks' asthma before they selected him 18th overall.
Happens.
Yeah, well. Speaking of things that happen, I don't know what fucking stupid transition that was. Hey, John, speaking of things that happen, and then I could literally transition to any topic at all. John Elway offered 20% of the Broncos in 1998 for $36 million. Now the team's being sold for $4.6 billion. That 20% would have been worth $930 million. $36 million in 98 would have been a lot of money to.
I agree. I would agree. I mean, I think we're underselling that amount. Not that he thinks like maybe in 10, 20 years this could be worth $100 million. I think it's much easier to play this game. I think we played a lot. Luckily for Elway, when they play that, like there were 7 people initially in Amazon and Apple, and 2 of them took $200,000 to leave. Like,
no, the Apple guy sold his shares for like $1,000.
Okay, that sucks because clearly that guy is not rich. Like ultimately, John Elway is fine, right? His life has gone pretty fucking well. But I'm with you though. I think $36 million is a little unfair to be like that. That seems, even though, I think we do this sometimes in pro sports. $36 million now is a ton of money. A ton of money. Taylor Gooch just left the PGA Tour for like 15. So it's like $36 million, a lot of money. 25 years ago, you could argue that's an astronomical amount. I mean, guy, the Warriors sold like 10 years ago for $350 million. Like, I think we're underselling the 36, and not you and I, but that tweet is just like everyone's like idiot, moron, Elway. It's like, I bet don't you think in the 90s, a lot of people, wealthier, quote unquote, were offered deals like that, and they're saying no all the time. Hey man, I need some influx of cash, $50 million. Nah, I'm good. You can play that game in so many different investments. I think it's very, very unfair. Now, where it does suck is like, if like John Elway went bankrupt 3 times, like that would suck.
Right. The chat is letting us know that Nick Bosa said this about Drake Jackson. He does things out there that I definitely couldn't do as a rookie. The way he moves, he's definitely got some impressive stuff about him. I would say they're a little bit different, right? But not like Drake. Jake Jackson's not 6'4". I mean,
but Bosa's not either.
That's what I mean. Like they look a little like he looks a little more, as you would say, linear than Nick does. But it's not like he's super, super tall. Drake, we've seen him in person. I don't know what's he listed at, 6'2" probably or something.
I need to go on a scouting mission when we get to training camp and those guys are in pad stand side to side. Because I honestly feel like they're closer in size.
Drake's listed at 6'3". I don't know if I felt that way while looking at him.
I didn't either.
Maybe you can't have him standing next to Armstead, so maybe.
I'm telling you, I think he could have a big season for a second round pick. I mean, big. You get 8-9 sacks out of a second round pick 61. I mean, that would be a home run, right?
I think, like, to me, what's the minimum number of sacks he could have? And you go, I think they got something here. Like, to me, if he had 6, be like, hey, my guy, I might have something here.
Because if you get 6 and then like 5 or 6 other wow plays throughout the season, him like chasing the guy down, batting the ball, there's lighting the guy up on
maybe a deflected ball interception. Remember, he had a pick against San Jose State. It was kind of his highlight last year. Drake looks too chunky. Interesting. I have not getting eyeballs on him felt that way about him, but
did you get eyeballs on him today? I didn't get eyeballs on him.
I didn't watch him too much today. No, or I didn't watch him at all today. Really.
95.
I think, like to Randall's point, you can't double everyone on that D line. He has the potential to benefit from being on the team that he's on.
One thing I want to tip my hat to these guys, and call me an old soul. I like my defensive linemen to be 91, 95, 97, 99, 98. Like I like my group all in the 90s.
And who is wearing? You're saying like some teams wear like a 78.
I think it's changed a little bit over the years.
Usually 78 is like, the last guy in your roster if he's pass rushing. 88. I guess college you see like an 88 on the D line.
Didn't Brady make a big deal that they can now wear different jerseys?
Yeah, but really who does it on the D line?
Yeah, I feel it's coming.
Linebackers do it. Brady didn't like the Mike linebacker wearing 6.
Or like Micah Parsons being able to wear 11.
Right.
Which honestly, I'm going to be a new soul on. I like Micah Parsons 11. I think it looks pretty good.
Chandler Jones is wearing number 5 this year.
See, I don't like that.
No.
Do you agree though, Micah Parsons? If you are standing up, I don't mind, 11. I thought he looked pretty good in 11. Maybe it's because he just looks awesome.
It does fit his body.
Yeah. You would say historically, like he would wear 55 or 50, Yeah, D Ford was 55.
He feels like Parsons feels like a 56 to me. Yeah. Michael says Drake Jackson plus 3,000 for defensive rookie of the year. We've gone through this before. Maybe a few weeks ago, we actually did a video on Drake Jackson's defensive rookie of the year chances. It's a tough nut to crack. Like usually the defensive rookie of the year is just one of the best defensive players in the NFL that year.
Yeah.
And what's his name a few years ago from the Colts led the league in tackles as a rookie to win.
Darius Leonard, Aaron Donald,
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. Like you could make arguments like they got defensive player of the year votes, right? It'd be like you have like Nick Bosa's season, but you're a rookie. Maybe not quite that good, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like, well, he was a second rounder and he had 7.5 sacks. Well, it's like, yeah, so-and-so led the league in interceptions and is a Pro Bowler who was a second-round pick, right? And it was clearly like a top 5 corner. Like that's usually the guy, let's say Patrick Surtain. I'm not saying he did, but let's say he had 9 picks.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like Patrick Surtain?
No. Is Surtain the one the Niners could have had when they traded back?
Or
no, Asante Samuel Jr. That's who it was.
Asante Samuel Jr., Aaron Banks. Even though we saw Aaron Banks today, we thought he looked a little thinner.
I thought he looked a little slimmer. Yeah. Marcus Peters, the last DB to win the award, had 8 picks and 2 touchdowns as a rookie in 2015. Actually, I'm sorry. Marshawn Lattimore won it with 5 interceptions.
Again, so both those 2 guys on their rookie year were immediately Pro Bowl guys.
I love this list, John. Here are your defensive rookie of the years. Micah Parsons, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Darius Leonard, Marshawn Lattimore, Joey Bosa, Marcus Peters, Aaron Donald, Sheldon Richardson, Luke Kuechly, Von Miller, and Ndamukong Suh. Let's go back to 2010. So defensive rookie of the year basically means, yeah, you're about to be a stud. D'Amico Ryans won it the year before Patrick Willis won it.
I don't think you listed anyone that wasn't like a top either first or second round pick. Well, there was no like undrafted free agents. So I would not take like a 5th round pick just because you can get 100 to 1 odds or something.
Brian Cushing, Gerard Mayo, Patrick Willis, D'Amico Ryans, Sean Merriman, Jonathan Vilma, Terrell Suggs, Julius Peppers, Kendrell Bell, linebacker for the Steelers, probably had a bunch of sacks, I'm guessing.
On a really good team, probably helped.
Yeah. Second team All-Pro as a rookie. Brian Urlacher, Javon Kearse, Charles Woodson, Peter Boulware, Simeon Rice, Hugh Douglas. I mean, the list is just it's defensive rookie of the years are just the best
if Drake
players.
Jackson were to win it, you're basically assured to have like another star on the team. Right?
Yeah, he's an All-Pro. I mean, he's an All-Pro. Yeah. It's just a ridiculous.
I probably wouldn't bet him.
Yeah, you'd have to take. Well, but we talked about it like this in this particular draft.
There were a ton of defensive linemen, right?
But none that anyone thought. I mean, Kayvon.
Yeah,
but it wasn't anyone that was like obviously Nick Bosa, right?
But let's say Thibodeau has like 11 sacks and is like a second team All-Pro. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like he would immediately be the guy, even if he's on a shitty team.
Right,
right. Aaron Donald, when he got to the Rams, they were terrible. Like if it's like, God, Kayvon should have been the number 1 overall pick. Like if it's that clear year 1, he will win Defensive Player of the Year and he'll just be the star on the Giants, right? Or Jeremiah Johnson or whoever. Like if they just like, this is one of the best defensive players in the league. He'll be the pick and then he'll be like, this guy's just going to be a star in the league. Like I bet Micah Parsons, don't you think a lot of people like preseason are going to pick him to be the Defensive Player of the Year this year?
Yeah.
A guy like that.
Yeah.
Him, Nick Bosa, I would say, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett. I mean, it'll be a crew of like 6 guys. He'll be one of them.
Jets will be playing with the lead a lot, so maybe Sauce Gardner will get a bunch of picks.
The lead
in practice. Kyle Hamilton, never a bad bet.
That's not. You just have to get some picks.
Yeah. Khair Elam, cornerback, Bills. Like ball's gonna be in the air.
Yeah,
against Buffalo.
Well, he's a guy, right? He has 7 picks. And they're the 1 seed, and it's like, is Elam the second best corner in the league behind Jalen Ramsey? Boom. Pro Bowl, Defensive Player of the Year. That's what happened to Lattimore, right? Went to a really good team, was awesome, clearly was elite. He's been a star ever since.
Yeah. Bruce Smith did wear 78. That's a good call.
Yeah. Pulled it off pretty well, too.
I mean,
they're outliers, right? Bruce Smith, what's his name for the Chiefs forever? He died in a car accident.
Derek Thomas?
Rusher. Yeah, Derek Thomas.
What number did he wear?
I think 58.
But that feels...
And he was like technically an outside linebacker. I mean, I've always, Von Miller did the same thing. Outside, like when I look at Von Miller, he's a pass rusher. He's a defensive end.
You're saying like he should have been wearing 97?
Yeah, like even Alden stood up a lot. Like Alden was a lineman, right? I didn't view Alden like, to me, a linebacker is like Fred Warner, Luke Kuechly. Alden Smith went forward. Linebackers go sideways, backwards.
That's true. But it feels like there's edge rushers are like in a different category where they can wear numbers in the 50s.
Yeah, but when you like Vaughn, like, okay, an edge rusher. But when you say the word edge rusher, do you think linebacker or defensive lineman?
Defensive end. Yeah, defensive lineman.
Like I put Alden, Vaughn in that category, right? You say
Khalil,
edge rusher. Yeah.
Khalil Mack. If the Rams and Niners trade coaches, would they project the same win-loss? I think so.
Yeah. They'd both be good.
Difference is the Niners would need a new coach in 2 years when McVay leaves.
Would you say the Rams are the pretty heavy favorite to win the division?
Yes.
Have to be, right, with everyone returning and the quarterback. They're probably the favorite to win the NFC, right? I mean, the odds are probably pretty close to them in Tampa, but like just if you were betting, who would you'd have to pick the Rams, right?
I'd pick the Rams. I mean, I don't think
Tampa has a new coach.
New coach. I don't know. I don't do the whole football gods, blah, 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 all that shit. I'm not saying that. But
she made him retire, guy.
Tom retiring for 40 days and then coming back like Lent or something. It's just, it could be weird. That's all I'm saying. Could be weird. I would ride with the defending champs.
You know who Icky Johnson is? The former football player that had his arm, who got in the bad. He's like a motivational speaker now. He played at the University of Tennessee. He had a tackle, I think, like late 90s. Arm went numb, lost his arm. He's like a motivational speaker now. Teams have him.
Inky, with an N. Inky.
Yeah, Inky. So the Bucks, he speaks to a lot of colleges. He speaks to like companies. Todd Bowles brought him in and must be buddies with him. They did this picture. The Bucks tweeted out this morning of like him speaking to the team. You know who was in the like front and center, front row, sitting there?
Tom.
Yeah. You just think like teachers and coaches are big on their, like when I was at Fresno State, tell everyone sit in the front row, sit in the front row, sit in the front row. Tom's just sitting in the front row. Now, granted, he was like on the steps, like there are all these chairs, and then in the middle, there's like steps that go up. He had a roller, but like he was front and center. It's pretty, it's a big benefit. Like smart people sit there, stage engage. Dumb people just forces you to listen. I was always back because I didn't have to pay attention.
Not asleep, but also not totally awake.
Like, were you a front class sitter?
Depend on the class, probably. It varied. Probably early in my life, yes, and then as time went on, less so. In college, if it was like a big stadium seating type situation, never in the front.
No, same. I would have gone for Inky.
I would have gone for Inky. Yeah. Would have gone for Inky. All right. Warriors-Celtics tonight. If you're watching this before Wednesday, I think this has a chance. If you're watching this or listening to this before the game, I think Boston is the best environment there is in basketball. And
Belichick, Portnoy
and Draymond going to do like a podcast post. I feel like Portnoy, this is all leading up to him and Draymond collaborating. This is the way Portnoy's playbook usually goes, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to work out. But the Warriors were this close to playing in Miami. Like the Warriors were one game away from playing the Heat and playing in an arena that is just beneath Steph Curry and Draymond Green and the NBA Finals. Like everyone's wearing white and they're just hanging and nobody's really into it in Miami. It's beneath an NBA Finals Warriors matchup. Steph Curry and Draymond and Clay and these guys, Kevon Looney, they belong in an NBA Finals in the Garden. They belong there, right? Like this, their careers are more complete because they're going to have a Finals in the Garden instead of a Finals on South Beach.
Agreed. They played some good. I mean, Cleveland brought it, and the Raptors brought it. I mean, they played in some pretty good ones. This would be the best.
Yeah, I mean, somebody pointed out to me on Twitter, like sometimes like small markets are great, right? Like Oklahoma City, great environment. Indiana, phenomenal environment.
Magic,
Peak Sacramento, great. A lot of these places, when they're good, are like really good. Miami, they're really good, and it is so average from a crowd standpoint on TV. And Boston is just,
I mean, let's face it, is Miami
incredible.
just kind of a bad sports town given the environment of the city?
Yeah,
sure feels that way.
I mean, it's hard, right? Because not like the Marlins are ever any good. Tampa's good, but I don't blame anybody for not going to those games. I guess that's not Miami, but
I know what you mean. I mean, I feel Tampa kind of falls closer to that category too. It doesn't feel like Tampa, even with Tom Brady, like some fucking crazy raucous environment, does it?
It's a good point.
It just feels like Florida just doesn't have the vibes.
No. We're just so lucky that the Warriors got a Boston series. I can't wait to see Draymond against this crowd.
Yeah, can't either. Belichick, Portnoy, Draymond.
The other night I was watching
Wahlberg.
I got Wahlberg.
Ben.
Is Neil Diamond going to do the anthem? Is he still with us?
Yeah, he's still with us, I think.
I got pissed off the other day because game 1, they didn't show the starting lineups. They showed the anthem. They did not show the starting lineups, which I think is insane. Like, if I ran a local team television network, I would insist that we show the starting lineups every night, whether it's NBA or Major League Baseball. Let's show let's show. It's a show. It's everybody on earth who is a sports fan has some idea of the song they'd want to play when they get introduced, of what it's like. How many people have done that? And now, here I come. Everybody does starting lineups in their head for themselves. It's such a show. You got to do it. My take was, imagine Vince McMahon having the WWE and you turn it on and they just start the wrestling. Nobody walks down the tunnel or walks down the ramp. They just start the wrestling. Like, walking down the ramp is part of the thing. Well, then a buddy of mine who works for ABC texted me. He's like, well, the problem is they keep the lights down for starting lineups, and it's hard for us to show. It doesn't come across good on television if the lights are down for the lineups. We can't really shoot it. It doesn't look good. I was like, all right. And he said they refuse to turn the lights on for us, for television. It's like, all right, well, I guess I kind of get that, but
the Warriors.
Well, just like teams in general. Yeah, like they want to do their show in the building. But I could swear I've seen light down starting lineups that look pretty good. I think it's such a missed opportunity for big games not to have the starting lineups.
Yeah, you're talking about the actual guys running out, high-fiving through their own guy tunnel.
6'4" from Davidson, number 30, and the crowd's booing
and high-fiving his teammates.
Yes, you need that, man. Like,
and then when the last guy comes through, you get together and you start doing the hype.
Yes, this is a show. This is a show. Like, come on.
I agree.
All right. Well, the Niners, you have suggested maybe Kyle cancels things on Thursday. If he doesn't, then we'll be back with another live report from practice, but we'll see what's going on.
Peace.
Later, everybody.